Good morning, ladies and gents. It's the 14th of June, 2025. Another session on water and food and me refurbing an old wood stove that I found. And guess what? There's going to be no talking about political bullshit, war, conflict, Trump, and all the rest of it. None of that, thankfully, today. Instead, I just want to. I want to do another quick. This is going to be a fairly quick video on water and food because I just can't stress the importance of it. Some of you might know that I've not long completed a 3 day exercise. It's what they call dry fasting, whereby I didn't eat nor drink anything for 72 hours. And the reason why I'd done that was to better understand what that feels like. That's both physically and mentally. And what does that mean? But what does that mean to me? And because there's plenty of videos out there, there's plenty of advice and content telling you that you should have this and you should have that and all the rest of it, which is fine. That's good. But we'll go off and do that. But I'm a I'm a prepper, okay? And for me to fully understand and take this prepping seriously, I need to understand what and why this advice is being given, okay? So I need to understand my boundaries. Now, I'm not going to go into that 3 day thing. I've done a video on it. If you want to kind of see how that went, then watch that video. I'm going to do another dry fasting exercise, but instead of 3 days, it's going to be five. There's no food, no water for 5 days. And the reason why I'm going to do 5 days is because although I was challenged for those 3 days, I don't believe I was challenged enough. What I'm trying to say is I was kind of not too bad. And that's not I don't think that's fully testing my boundaries. Okay, so I need to fully test. I want to understand what it means to go into that state of dehydration and the food, not the food, your body starting to eat away itself because of the lack of food. Okay. Anyway, forget about that. I'll do another video on that. I'm thinking of doing that possibly next week, and I will keep you updated. But with that in mind, and over the last few months, I've been thinking a lot about water storage and just cooking food. Okay, because those to me, like water, food. Okay, they have to come first. If you haven't got that shit in order, then don't move on to anything else. Don't go off and get your solar panels. Don't go off and get your torches and your 200-hour candles or whatever the fuck it is. Okay, make sure that your water, in terms of how you're going to source it, where you're sourcing it from. If you are sourcing it, can you filtrate it and also purify it? If you're going to store it, okay, get that in place. Get that shit in order first, and then move on to food. Get your food sorted. What type of food? How much food? How long for? How are you going to cook it? La 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 la. Okay, because food and water has to come first. Okay, forget about everything else. Once you've got those two things in place, then move on to the other stuff. Okay, so that's why I'm trying. I can't emphasize it enough, guys. The importance of it. Hence the reason why my advice to you is to do this dry fasting exercise 3 days, 5 days, whatever it is, because then you will fully understand what that means. Okay, your body not having any fluid. Okay, when I say water, I mean any fluid, nothing. Okay, so you're pretty much starving yourself of water and food for 5 days. Now that might sound easy, but give it a go. Right, guys, I'm just going to throw up some slides as I normally do. We have to go back to the numbers. How many people are we preparing for? And for me, as some of you'll know, that there are five of us here. Okay, so we're a family of five. That's the unit. Okay, so we're talking about a minimum of 25 liters of water between us per day. We need that. Okay, you need to have 4 liters a day per person, and that is going to be for drinking, washing, and other basic needs. I've been thinking about the different scenarios, but more so on the possible cause of how that water utility is going to be hit. So our local water utility, what's gonna prevent that from delivering water to our taps? We've got to start with a power outage, cascading across to water providers, and how they won't be able to sort of filtrate, treat, and pump water out to its residents. If there's a severe power outage, then we're okay. The question that we have to ask ourselves, whether it's food, water, whether it's prepping, whatever it is, the question that we have to kind of buzz around our heads is how long are we preparing for? Okay, and the reality is none of us really know. Um, So they're out there advising everyone to have at least 72 hours worth of emergency kit for you to survive. Okay, 72 hours is 72 hours. After that, what are you doing? Okay, so just bear that in mind. 72 hours is cool, gives you 3 days to get your head around everything, and for the government and sort of local services to get their get their shit in order and start initiating whatever sort of local protocols they have to do, depending on the type and the severity of the crisis. Another possibility, right? So not another possibility. Yeah, I said about power outage. Cascading across the water providers. So a water utility site would have to rely on water, like I say, for filtration, treating, and pumping. Another possibility for the water outage has to be in the form of contamination. Now, when I say this, I'm talking about two approaches here. So, firstly, the water facility could be sabotaged in the form of, let's say, poisoning the water at the facility itself. So there could be somebody that works there or somebody that gets into the site and they physically poison a water source. Okay, then all you need to do is just make a phone call to the water facility, say that I've just, or we have, depending on who you're doing it in the name of, have just put X amount in terms of quantity of a given chemical into your water supply, and the water provider would have to act on that. Okay. The other form of contamination that we're going to be talking about is radiation. So that's a radioactive contamination. And before anyone's unbalanced, I'm based here in the UK, but I'm going to use this following scenario. And to do that, I'm just going to bring up, if you haven't heard of it, this is a really good site, guys. Nuke map. Okay, basically what this is a simulator. What you can do is simulate the detonation of a nuclear weapon, whether it's tactical, whether it's not, whether it's a ground burst, whether it's an air burst, whatever it is, you can simulate that scenario. And this website will then tell you the impact, the radioactive levels, and whether you're, how much danger are you going to be in, depending on where you are within those zones. Okay, so I'm going to use this I'm going to use this because it's better for me to sort of show you. So what we're going to talk about here is a tactical nuke hits the Airbus Defence and Space Facility, which is in, I think it's Western Paris. So this basically, I'm not going to show you how to use this. I've done a couple of videos on this nuke map, and I kind of explain how to use it. If you ever want to simulate what a nuclear detonation looks like and its effects, then go to nuke. Just Google nuke map, and then this will come up. Yeah. Basically, what you can do is I'm going to just put a location in here. Okay, I'm just going to put Paris. Yeah. I'm going to simulate. I think that airbase, I'm not too sure whereabouts it is, but I think it's around about here. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to simulate a 150 kiloton tactical nuke, and it's going to hit the airbase. I think it's here somewhere. We're going to choose the yield, which is the size of the warhead. It's 150 kiloton. We want to know the effects of the casualties. So how many casualties and fatalities are there? And the radioactive fallout. Okay. And then basically all we do is just click detonate. Yeah. Now I'm going to zoom out so you can kind of see what that looks like. So that's the detonation. And if you're within these rings here, you're going to be in severe trouble. If you're in these rings here, right in the center, you're pretty much done. Unless you're in a bunker, that is, and it has to be kind of a fortified bunker, deep underground, and all the rest of it. Okay, but you're going to be in trouble in this area. Okay, but if we zoom out of this, you'll see the actual potential fallout cloud and the size of it. Okay, so although people say, "Oh yeah, okay, France will be done," and that's the end of the world and that's the apocalypse and all the rest of it, you couldn't be any further from the truth. Okay, that's the fallout cloud of 150 kiloton tactical nuke hit in Paris. Yeah. Now, I'm looking at this as a scenario, and I want to drag this fallout cloud in that direction. So if we have got the wind direction traveling in from southeast, here and pushing that radioactive cloud across the English Channel, then we can see what that's going to look like. Okay. At the moment, there, we're in pretty safe hands. Yep. So that's what I'm trying to say. Now, if let's say, for example, I done this detonation in Calais, wherever that is. Where is Calais? Where is Calais? Let's just put it on there. Is it Calais? Calais. I don't even know how to spell that actually. Anyway, let's just get rid of that. I think, oh, there it is, Calais. So let's say, for example, that detonation, right? So that is a counter force target. It's a military base. And you would see your enemy wanting to take that out, depending on what's there and what threat that is to you. In terms of the fallout cloud, and depending on how fast the wind is traveling and stuff like that, Brighton or the southern part of England will be on high alert. Your local water utility provider is going to be saying, listen, we're going to have to turn off the water because the local water source may be contaminated, possibly. Okay. However, I'm not too sure. Now, if I move that detonation to, let's say, Calais, then the scenario looks very different. Yeah. If we've got those winds traveling, let's say, in that direction, so that's still south easterly winds. This is taking its time to catch up. What's going on? Come on, come on, come on. Anyway, guys, it's a tactical nuke. It's gone off here. Is this place likely to have air defense systems in place there? There's no military targets there. So why would the French government have sort of air defense there? Maybe because it's a counter-value target. Difference between the two targets: a counter-force, counter-value. Counter-force is a military target. Counter-value is a commercial target. Let's say a data center, a computer data center, or your shipping ports, or your oil refineries, or the Houses of Parliament. They're non-military, but they're critical. Yeah. Calais is a port where there's a high volume of people and also sort of trucks and cargo and stuff like that moving across either by ferry and or the Eurotunnel. Now, if there's a detonation there, that's not a UK detonation, but it could be a warning shot from, let's say, Russia or someone else. And the fallout cloud all of a sudden is hitting London and as far north as Oxford. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that's a scenario. So anywhere in here, whether it's Maidstone, Canterbury, Croydon, High Wycombe, and Oxford, the water facility, the water providers or the utility providers in those areas are going to tell everyone, do not use the water in your taps. Okay, right. So just in summary, 150 kiloton nuclear tactical nuke hits Calais. Why do I keep saying Carlisle? Hits Calais, and your water's going to go off. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you have to have a tactical nuke or any kind of a detonation here in the UK. It could be in a different country, but we're looking at the effects. Now, that's the reason why I'm trying to emphasize the importance of water. Okay, you need, if that happens, everyone, as soon as that announcement is being made that the water is going off because it is likely to be contaminated with radioactive fallout, everyone's going to run off to Sainsbury's, Asda, Tesco's, and wherever else it is you do your shopping, and they're going to buy shitloads of water. They're going to panic. The water aisle in those supermarkets are going to be empty within an hour. Okay, when that happens, then you're going to have a problem. You and I are going to have a problem. I won't have a problem, and I hope that you guys don't. Hence the reason why we're doing this prepping video. But you're not going to have the problem because that's why we're talking about sourcing your water, storing it, being able to filtrate it, and also purify it. Okay, I'm going to move on. So that's the tactical nuke. I just wanted to sort of explain the two scenarios: either a power outage via cyber attack on a power station, substation, or whatever, taking out the water utility provider, and or a contamination of that supply. When I'm talking about this kind of attack, we're only referring to the water vulnerability. If there are reservoirs in your area and you live in those areas, I think it was Canterbury, Maidstone, Croydon, Central London, and Oxford. you're likely to hear that your water utility provider in said areas are shutting that water off. And why? Because those radioactive particles are going to be falling from the sky and onto those water pools wherever they are. Remember, guys, the English Channel between France and the UK at its narrowest point is 21 miles or 34 kilometers. So a tactical nuke going off in Calais is pretty much the same as a nuke being detonated on UK soil. Yeah, that's the message I'm trying to get across here. But just to point this, or just to sorry, just to put this into some kind of perspective, the Chernobyl disaster back in 80, what was it, 85, 86, with 400 times more radioactive material was released than that of an atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki. There is a significant difference here. The Chernobyl disaster released a lot of radioactive material over a long period of time, whereas a tactical nuke detonated releases the radioactive explosion. Well, the explosion is happening within seconds, or a second, 1 second, or a millisecond. Okay. So that's the main difference, guys. There are videos out there. There's content out there. There's people telling you what the difference is between a nuclear power station disaster and a tactical nuke hitting your local government building. Looking at the map, I just want to show you this. Looking at the map, we can see the Chernobyl disasters, the radioactive cloud. It actually fell short of. Well, it's not fell. That actually, the UK was kind of potentially vulnerable, but it was quite weak by that time. But it did sort of it kind of fell short, I think, of the French borders in terms of severity. But looking at the map, we can see that the Chernobyl disaster's radioactive cloud, sort of it kind of there was particles in the air over the UK, but most of the countries in the northern sort of hemisphere were mainly sort of exposed. Yeah, I'm going to leave that there. A tactical nuke striking Ukraine would not cause the same sort of fallout as seen in Chernobyl back in 1986. Sadly, in a more sort of realistic scenario, Ukraine is more likely to fall victim first to a tactical nuke strike. And although devastating for those on the ground and in ground zero, Ukraine's prevailing winds for right. So for Ukraine, I've had a look at the prevailing winds, and they're kind of all over the place. It's right. So the prevailing winds here in the UK are either normally north or southwesterly for 75% of the year. So the winds come in from the west. Yeah, we get the jet stream. We get everything coming in from west, going across to east. If you live in Wales and a tactical nuke is detonated in the UK, as long as it's not in Wales, then you're safe for the best part of the year, because the prevailing winds are coming in from the west and they're likely to blow that fallout cloud across to the east. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I've covered that in other sort of videos. But what I'm trying to say here is the prevailing winds in Ukraine, in the north, east, and south, the easterly and southeasterly winds prevail. In the west, you've got northwesterly and also westerly, whilst in the south of Ukraine, it's southerly or southwesterly. So it's a real mixed bag in Ukraine. So from one day to the next, you don't really know which way the wind is blowing. But because of any sort of potential fallout cloud from the missile caused by a ground burst, and it's a 150 kiloton warhead, that's simply not going to cause us the fallout cloud is not going to be big enough to reach many parts of Europe, let alone the UK. So for Russia to punish the UK, either a direct strike here in the UK, launched from one of the many submarines, that's the Russian submarines, nosing around the British shorelines, or a strike in mainland Europe, but closer to the UK, like the example we just used in Calais, could cause us here a big problem. Just something to bear in mind, guys. Okay, as well as all of the other madness, the panic buyers, they're definitely going to be out there. People will be getting in their cars and traveling as far away as possible, from the approaching fallout cloud, or you'd kind of expect that. Thousands of people will be thinking about doing the same thing. They're going to be blocking up transport routes. And of course, they're clearing down the shelves in shops. I've spoken about panic buyers and what that means. Okay, you don't want to be invited to that panic buying party, guys. You need to make sure you're prepared, and because the stress of that is going to be overwhelming. The moment mainstream news mentions a tactical nuke being detonated, no matter where it is in the world, and I've got a really bad feeling about it, but I think it's something we're going to experience, as in that news feed. Um, People, and we're talking about millions of them, they're going to lose their minds, regardless of the advice and help being deployed, regardless of where in the world that detonation was. The word nuclear will completely unbalance everyone, and that includes me to a degree. Okay, because in the back of all of our minds, firstly, we don't want to be hearing that news, but secondly, I think most of us think that's not going to happen. That's the normality bias coming in, but that's only based on our previous experience, whereby we've never experienced it. So we're quick to kind of shun it off. Right. What have we got here? Yeah, so these are right. Okay, so yeah, so this is the fallout cloud from Chernobyl over the 2 or 3 days as it happened across Europe. So you can see the UK here on the 2nd of May 1986. We kind of got a little bit of it, but for the most part, not really. Okay. Right, guys. I've done these 2 videos. I've done 2 videos. They're called New World War: UK Threats and Targets, Part One and Part Two, on basically they're nuke simulations here in the UK. And I'm going to get the same done for neighbouring countries as well soon, like France, Germany, and stuff like that. I'm sure there's going to be content out there where they've done this. If they haven't, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I don't know whether the viewers of this channel and these videos are from Germany, Spain, Italy, France, Norway, Finland, or what. So it's only fair that I don't just be biased and concentrate on the UK just because that's where I'm living. So there are, those are the reasons why my focus has shifted back onto water. I'm looking at storage options, transportation options in terms of collecting the water from a local source. I've got a local source, so I'm happy with that. It's not too far away, and getting it back home safely. But safely, it's not really safely. It's being able to move large amounts of water. If you think you're just jumping in cars and off you're going and stuff, yeah, that's going to be fine up until a point. But again, it depends on the level of the SHTF situation. What I've done is I've factored in the movement of that water, or the transportation of that water physically, carrying on a trolley, whatever it is. Yeah. I'm also looking at other filtration options because although the life straws that I've kind of mentioned do the job, and purification tablets do the job, I want to be looking at filtering large amounts of water quickly, or quicker than, let's say, a life straw. I've found a couple of options. I'm not going to talk about it now, but once I've got access to those 2 options, then I'll do a video on that. So to avoid the lack of water coming out of the taps and on the shelves in the supermarkets, this is what I'm looking at the moment. Water storage options. I'm really sort of locked onto purchasing these 1,000 litre sort of containers. Of course, they're not small. And guys, there are smaller containers out there starting at 1 litre. Okay, you can go out and get a 1 litre container of some sort, whether it's a bottle of water, whatever it is, a 1 litre bottle. If we're talking about bottles. However, I have to sort of think along the lines of water storage for longer periods of time, because let's face it, if there's a radioactive cloud heading for the mainland Britain, then certain parts of the country, could be without water for a couple of weeks at least. And God forbid, if a tactical nuke hits any counterforce or counter-value target here in the UK, then you could find yourselves, you could honestly find yourselves without water for a lot longer than a couple of weeks. Now, I know when I'm talking about this, that some people are just not buying it. They're not even going to buy this. That's fine. That's up to you. I'm only here to sort of give you some advice, and if I can kind of convince you of the dangers, that's fine. If you choose not to take that on board. Then stop watching these videos. Um, you know, that's up to you. Because some people are just not going to acknowledge the word nuclear being a thing, not in their lifetimes. Okay, that's just the way it is. That's normality or whatever bias you want to call it. If, for example, we want to be able to store enough water for 6 months, then three of these containers. Now, have I got a picture of these containers? I think yeah, right. Let's go back. Those. So these containers here, you see these, you see this one here on the left? Okay, 1,000 liters. It's big. Of course it's big, but of course, if you want to store for 1,000 liters, it's going to be relatively large. But the water storage options, I'm locking on to the purchasing of these 1,000 liter storage containers. Do you know what? You can pick these up for as little as 50 quid, £50. That's UK pounds here in the UK, and I think that's cheap for 1,000 liters of water. 50 quid is good. Um, However, for me, I have to think along the lines of water storage for longer periods of time, because let's face it, if there's a radioactive cloud, like I said, heading for mainland Britain, then certain parts of the country, could definitely be without water for a couple of weeks or more. And God forbid, if a tactical nuke does hit any of those targets in the UK, it's going to be a lot longer. So I want to get a couple of these, at least a couple of these, and then what I want to do is this. So you can see from the picture here, bury them into the ground. The reason why I'd want to do that, and the main reason is because of space. We they're quite big, and having them sat in your garden or wherever it is taking up quite a bit of space. They're also exposed in terms of they're exposed to the sun and heat, which is not good for water stored in plastic containers. I won't go into that. I've gone into it on another video, but I'm not going to discuss that now. So what I want to do is get two or three of these containers and drop them into the ground, and that will give me and or this family of five enough water for 6 months. um, and then also I am looking at, I want to get these or some of these 240 liter water butts, and I want to put them in our loft. And we'll do, again, guys, for us, it's about money. We haven't got the money to go off and get this stuff now, but as soon as it's there, this is what I'm doing. I say we. Listen, this is I'm doing this. The family aren't doing this. I'm doing it for the family. Remember, guys, only one of us in the family is working at the moment, and that person is only working part time. But just because we can't afford to get out there and resolve these issues today, doesn't mean that we stop preparing. If you're in the same position as me, and let's be honest, there's going to be millions of people out there, simply trying to make ends meet. Don't worry, because the next video, or I'm going to do some videos where we'll be discussing this exact situation, and what we can still do to get ourselves prepared without not having much money or no money at all. Just because you can't go off and spend a shitload of money on a load of kit doesn't mean you cannot prepare. Okay, guys, don't get that thought out of your head. But even two or three of the 240 liter water butts, those on the right, see them? They're about the standard is 240 liter. I want a couple of those or more in my loft, as additional water storage. That would be great, because that's around each one of those is around 1 month's worth of water for five of us. Just think of it like that, okay, guys? If the taps are turned off because of a power outage or radioactive contamination, and the panic buyers have fucked you over in the supermarkets, then well, listen, if you've got this stuff in place, you don't even have to go to the supermarket. You don't have to worry. You're fine. You just sit there and go, yeah, fine. Let them crack on. Let them go off and beat each other up over over who's going to have the last pack of water in Sainsbury's or whatever it is. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Now we've got the the water sorted. I'm just going to quickly just cover a little bit on food. I'm not going to talk too much about this, but for me, I've been concentrating on a food plan, different types of food, but more importantly, the cooking of the food when the grid goes down. So, of course, some of you again, those with the money can have some nice gas stoves and a shitload of gas. That would be perfect. But that's just not the case for us. So with that, we have to sort of take it back to the bare bones at the moment. And I like this. I like having to do it with no money because you kind of appreciate things a little bit better. I've been thinking about wood, the wood stoves. For some reason, not for some reason, it just seems the most logical piece of kit that we would need, a log stove of some sort. Now, if we're talking about a proper log stove, like the cast iron ones and stuff like that, I'm telling you guys, those things are expensive. Even the old ones that have been restored, they're expensive. Um, and for me, I like it because there's always going to be a source of wood. And if you live in a city, then you're going to have to get out of the city to source that wood, 9 times out of 10. There is no way on this earth that I'm going to be sort of paying for bag. I go past the local petrol station here, and they've got packs of wood that's been cut up, chopped up, and nicely packaged into plastic bags and stuff like that. That's fine. That's cool. But there's no way on this earth am I going to be paying for bags of timber during an SHTF situation. I'm not even going to store much wood as per se, sort of here at this location. We don't have the storage space for starters, and you know, because of where we live, it is a bit rural, and we don't have to go far to come across wood, shall we say? So there are woods and stuff like that. What I'm trying to say is wood is already there. Okay, so if we need it, we'll go and get it. If it's, closer to the SHTF situation or we see that brewing up or whatever it is, we can simply go and get the wood. So we don't have to store it and we don't have to waste money on nicely cut up and chopped up packs of wood. Okay. This is a game of survival, guys. Yeah. If you've got the money, go and get it. That's fine. Even if you've got the money, I'd be saying, and again, it depends on your local sources and where you live. If you've got no choice but to buy it, buy it. Right. I was out walking the dogs. Right, listen, I'm just going to finish off this bit. I kind of like this, and I'm hoping you sort of get something from this. But I was out walking the dogs a week or two ago, and as I was walking along, I saw on the grass. Let me just show you what I saw. I saw this, what you can see on the screen, and as I've mentioned in previous videos, I've been thinking solely about water, food, and being able to cook that food. Heat it up, have a wash, wash clothes even, and make a hot drink. All of those things that you're going to need to be able to do, just purely on keeping your spirits high. Um, even if you have nothing else, yeah. If we have a grid down, then we need to ensure that we can do those things. Okay, so making a hot drink, okay, it gets morale up. Being able to wash, it makes you feel better. Okay, hygienically, being able to cook hot food as opposed to eating meals out of tins cold. It's just better hot, okay, guys. It gets it puts just having that heat source puts you in the right place. If you're cold and you want to heat yourself up, if you want to wash your clothes, your underwear, whatever it is, and then dry it quickly, you can do that. So, as I was walking the dogs, as I said, I came across this, and it's a wood stove, but it's a wood stove. It's an electric wood stove. I don't even know what that means, guys. How can you have an electric wood stove? It's either a wood stove or fucking electric grill, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, this was on the side of the road. So I picked it up and I took it home and I cleaned it up. So basically, what I've done is I kind of dismantled it. I took all the electric components out. So I took out there was like there was an element in there, like a grill element. There was wiring. There was a switch system. I took it all out. Okay, I got rid of it. Then what I've done is put it back. I'll give it a bit of a clean, put it back together, and that is the wood stove, as you can see. Now, I then went over to the local woods. There's a local wood to us to, just to collect some wood for the stove, different thicknesses, making sure that it was all dry enough to burn. And then when I got it back, I got my saw out, started chopping it up, and got a new axe that I'd bought not long ago, or well, it was actually a couple of months ago, but never really had the chance to use it properly. So bang, the axe came out, and I was chopping up this wood. So that wood that you see there didn't cost me a penny. The axe did, of course, um, but it didn't cost me a penny. So that's what I'm saying, guys. If you don't spend the money just because you have to, unless you live in a city and you can't go off, sort of scavenging for wood. So I went off to the local woods and I got some wood. Then what I done is I wanted to test this. I didn't know, if we've got like a proper heat going off, whether the thing was going to start melting and folding and buckling and shit like that. So basically, what I'm saying here is I picked up this old wood stove. I've got it going, and I needed to test. Test the boiling of water is one of the things I've done. As you can see, I was going to boil and cook some pasta, but I thought, well, I can boil water, so it doesn't matter. I don't need to prove that I can boil pasta if I can make a hot drink. So I made a hot chocolate, as you can see there on the right. I made a hot chocolate, and after that, I put the frying pan on, put a little bit of oil in there, as you can see on the left there, and I just cracked an egg and threw it in there. What I'm trying to say, guys, is that this wood stove cost me nothing. But it was on my list of priorities massively, because water, fine. I'm getting through that. Storage is the main thing at the moment, so I'm working on that. Food, well, that's I'm working on that. Different tiers, right? If you watch my food videos, you'll understand that there's four tiers: tier one, two, three, and four. So that's either freeze dried, dehydrated, meals in tins, or the bare minimums: rice, pasta, grain. Okay. Let's not go into that now. But if you've got those things in place and then you can cook that food and it's costing you nothing, this has cost me nothing, guys. It's cost me a little bit of oil and an egg and some bread. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to sort of share that experience with you. That this prepping business can be good. It's rewarding, especially if you can get stuff for nothing, guys. Okay, so don't think if you're sat there with no money, don't think that that's the end of the world and you've got no chance. Okay, guys, there's always a way, and you need to stay focused and on point. Yeah. Get yourselves military fit or fit. Get yourselves infantry aware or just aware. And when I say infantry aware, just doing this. Cooking some food. Yeah, just cooking some food, making a hot drink, going out to the woods, collecting wood and chopping it up. Okay. That's not infantry, military fit infantry aware. It's just being aware. It's being able to do these prepping tasks. Okay. Which you might find yourself having to do one day. Guys, take it easy. I'll catch up with you soon.